Now, what the progress is not obvious. What if government would like to go through peer review process? Scary thing, right? So peer review. Let's dedicate a few minutes on that on this topic alone. People afraid of peer review, and I know a few organizations who actually do something to what we call leverage or eliminate the problem or need for peer review down the road. Some designated organizations, when they incorporated smartly and wisely, what they incorporated the process when the peer review of sort happening right at the start. So instead of just letting um, people apply and issuing certificates and then see if it works, they actually do pre-screening process, very rigorous pre-screening process, and it works. It works very well, and I think it's a very viable model that some organizations implement, and certainly we like to work with these organizations because they provide solid support and they have a high reputation and high standard. So, and it's hard to penetrate through that organization through the barriers of quality control and assessment. So, but peer review. Peer review sometimes happening for many reasons, actually. I would like to eliminate one which we call random. And just imagine the officer who is assigned to review certain files, and he has, let's say, a stack of 100 files, and the order is to go through each fifth file he can find and count, and it's just random. So the first thing you as practitioner have to identify, was it random or something prompted the officer for peer review? And it's usually identifiable once you go through file or two or five or 10 projects and submissions and get results and communicate with the government. You will have that sense why it's there. Why it's there that government is asking for peer review. And peer review usually going through the process when government requests uh, what we call industry associations to review the practice of this particular designated organization or this particular investor or this particular project, how it goes in line with industry standards. Well, some may argue that industry standards itself are not um, sufficient or efficient or guaranteed. Well, I would leave that argument aside. In one case, actually, um, let me actually read it. It's kind of interesting. The applicant had audacity to actually argue with the officer. And let me just give me 1 second. It was very interesting. I was stunned when I saw it. Well, the oh no, in this one, sorry. So the officer was threatened with legal actions. Oh yeah, the letter concluded with the criticism that the visa officer was second guessing her business decisions, and the applicant ended up with the threat that she was exploring her legal options in the event of negative decision. Very arrogant, isn't it? So we we can criticize visa officer, but we cannot threaten the officer if the negative decision will be taken. You officer will face legal consequences. The officer is in charge of the file and integrity of the program. So speaking of peer review, among other things, the panel of experts, what they assess, who are they, we will never know. The IRCC is not under no obligation to disclose who are the panel members are, who are those experts, and rightly so, because see, if some applicants have a necessity to threaten the officer with legal actions, well, can you imagine what kind of pressure they can put on panel members, on experts, for, let's say, disregarding or making negative decision on file conclusions that raise questions? Better be prepared. Better be prepared. So what they're looking for and what they assess. Well, first of all, they assess the level of due diligence, and due diligence is a wide and vague term. You can go with due diligence on financials, due diligence on know-how, intellectual property. It's endless. Pretty much it's endless. Due diligence is a very, very interesting term. But if you apply due diligence in narrow terms of peer review, it's quite structured. And we normally have what we call due diligence review as part of the package, again, to prevent those peer reviews, because we would like to express our opinion to the officer before he asks questions. And I think that's smart to approach it that way and do it on preventative basis other than on reactive basis. And obviously the term of industry standards is very, very interesting term, because nobody actually can see or prescribe what those industry standards are. But at least if you compare two systems and you see, okay, industry standards are more or less in this area and more or less due diligence fall into that area, then you're okay. And obviously, what would be under review, the terms of commitment? Is it in line with requirements? One time I met the case, and I promised organizers to put practical cases in the webinar, because those are ones are of most interest for listeners. Once I got the request to review the file, which was actually under peer review, and unfortunately, I agreed with the officer right from the start. I actually said, I'm surprised you went this far, sir, because all indicators were that it was not so dedicated investor, and he wasn't in Canada. He was like, it was kind of interesting arrangement. And I said, well, they shouldn't even let you proceed, and your counsel shouldn't even invite you to apply, because obviously that's very, very negative. And to honor the officer in that particular case, I would say he gave this applicant three chances to explain, and procedural fairness letter was the last. And by the way, the letter they came to me for was actually addressing misrepresentation issue. And that would be disastrous, because, you know, it's 5-year ban on all applications, no appeal, it's over. So we guarded the applicant from misrepresentation charges, explained what exactly happened, and we invoked certain reasons for that, and he was cleared of misrepresentation charges. But we proceeded with another. At the end, I just was able to convince the client that we better withdraw the application because it was badly done, and we convinced the client to go along again with new certification, new approach, new investors, and just find a way to deal with the situation on a proper basis. But obviously, investment made by this, or commitment rather, made by designated organizations is part of the review as well. The business, they review if business has been incorporated in Canada. Not that rare, actually, despite the common belief and instructions and this and that. Not that rare. We see people coming and saying, yeah, we have a business. Yes, it's in Botswana. Right. But what it has to do with startup in Canada? Yeah, but my lawyer told me. I hate when people say that. Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility as a client to do due diligence and research. Yes, you ask one lawyer. Why don't you ask another one as a second opinion? If one doctor, I always tell people the truth. If one doctor tell you that you have a cancer, will you be satisfied and just start treatment? I bet you will go to 2 or 3 more doctors just to verify that diagnosis, right? So you have to be absolutely incredibly prepared to argue with your counsel if you feel something is not correct. So business must be incorporated in Canada. No other way. The next question under review is business ownership. Like I explained before, the ownership must be done in a certain way, and there is no other way around it, because those are grounds for this application to proceed further. And those are requirements of the startup visa program. A viability of proposed business model. Well, that's interesting because I reviewed few cases with certain incubators, and the proposed business model was questionable. Let's put it that way. And the reason for that was flexibility on incubator side, and that's why they getting under review more and more, because they exercise sometimes unscrupulous practices. And obviously, you have to be very well prepared when you deal with incubators opposed to VC or angel capital group, because those guys are responsible. Their reputation is on the line. They put commitment in place. They promise own money and invest own money, time, and effort. Incubators in general, they invest nothing, but they have to provide support. So that support varies, right? So you have to be very careful. And each and every time, the panel of experts, industry experts related to incubators, they see what incubators are doing. In general, what business model is implemented for this or that arrangement? Is this model is a viable model? And obviously, the suitability of the business venture management team. Sometimes it's astonishing, guys. Listen, I see sometimes teams and I say, well, I see one as a farmer, and you come into me for second opinion, or you come into me to assess the viability of this team for certain program, for certain stream, for certain designated organization. And I say, well, listen, I don't know about you. You probably care about your clients, but why you think that two farmers can create high profile AI fueled application so sophisticated not every IT specialist can even comprehend the idea? What make you think what makes you think so? Like where you got this assurance that management team is suitable for this? Those are red flags. And people sometimes say, yeah, but that's what we have to present. No, you don't have to. If that raised question is in your head, don't ignore it, because that's what peer review is for. People will find those flaws because you put in red flags right in front of them. How they can miss it? They will not. Okay, so, but if they identify the concerns, they send you report, and IRCC gets report and send it to you. Yes, for procedural fairness principles, they always follow, and they have to. They inform you that peer review found this. They allow you or your designated organization to address those issues, and it's on you, or rather on clients you represent, but technically it's on the client's shoulders to address those concerns. And like that client I presented, it happened in incubator in Vancouver, in our on our turf. Unfortunately, whoever advised the person didn't tell them to be respectful to the officer. Instead of presenting the opinion and proper suitable response to the peer review, the person started arguing angrily and threatened the officer with legal actions. That's not negotiations. That's ultimatum. And ultimatum never win in business. You cannot negotiate with ultimatum on your hands, right? So whoever have business experience, you guys know what I'm talking about.